All right, we are talking with the one and only Mike Tramp from, you may know him from White Lion. You know him from White Lion. I mean, one of the biggest bands in the 80s, and since then, they've put out more music. But Mike, you put out, am I correct in saying 11 solo albums? Am I correct in saying that?
Well, actually, at 5 more, you'll get 16, but who's counting? Yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's just one of those things that, it's a long time since Wait and When the Children Cry hit the airwaves, and the band broke up in 91. And it's a long time since 91, and I'm an active songwriter, artist, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I do. People that build houses. So, yeah, I got a lot of albums out there. Of course, things changed along the way, and radio and MTV ended up changing. So when an artist from the 80s come out with solo albums in 2000 and ongoing, not a lot of people in the world knows it. And so, for many, many years, I ended up, traveling from the corners of the world to the other corners of the world with a suitcase full of CDs and T-shirts and an acoustic guitar in my other hand, and just, brought my music out there. It's just the way it is. It's sort of like the movie with Jeff Bridges, Wild at Heart. It's just one of those. You don't stop because the platform that you used to, depend on, it doesn't invite you in anymore. You got to go on. I mean, I have 50th anniversary this year, and it's what I've been doing for 50 years, rock and roll.
When you first started writing music, creating music, and did you think that you would still be doing it 50 years on? Now, let me ask it this way. Did you think of that then? And then after that, those first big hits, did you have that feeling like it would this is it, this is forever?
Well, I mean, when I walked into my first band at age 15 and a half, left high school without a diploma and moved out of my mom's little apartment, was in 76. White Lion released Pride in 11 years later on. I traveled from Denmark through Europe and eventually ended up in New York in 1982 and started White Lion at that time. And I think just basically from day to day, you just moved on without ever, to just stop for a second. I mean, I was at a concert the other day, and this young guy came up to me. His dad, he was with his dad, and his dad recognized me. So the kid came over there and asked, you got any advice for a young musician? And I just went for a second and says, oh boy. And I says, don't put an expiration date.
Yeah.
Rock and roll does not have an expiration date. If you go in there and tell yourself that you have to make it within the first 3.5 years, you're already toast. So when I went into it as a one-way ticket that just would keep going forward, regardless as many times I went in a circle. But no, I had no idea. I had no idea when somebody played, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll in 76, that in 1988 I would be touring with AC/DC for 3 months. No, I didn't know anything. I just woke up every day and just started and saying, okay, what's going to happen today?
Yeah, like you said earlier, real musicians or real artists, they just don't stop. You're not in it to get famous. You want to be successful, but it's because it's inside of you, and you got to get it out.
No, it's a true, fair thing, and I think most people will eventually admit to that. When that's said and done, there were definitely a time during the 80s, especially, we always refer to the 80s because it was the big days, and it was very colorful, it was very loud, it was everywhere, that we maybe had lost a little bit of the thought that we actually were artists and not just, sort of like jet fighter pilots, at the speed of light, and so on. So when the smoke comes down and you wake up and you're sitting in that room and there's silence and you start thinking. Now, this is, of course, a period over 10, 15 years that I ended up really thinking about it. You get back to the conclusion and the facts that exactly what you just said. You are an artist, and this is what you do, regardless if you're playing for 5 people or 50,000 people. You are basically doing the same. You might raise your hands and be on a bigger stage when you're in the bigger things, but you're still the same person. And when you don't have a record deal anymore and you're not selling a lot of T-shirts and so, you're still an artist that sits with a guitar or piano. And now these days we sit in our home studios and we just go, before I started talking to you, I was thinking about, man, I just missed the thing about that at 4:00. I'm meeting the boys at the rehearsal room. We might start with a cold beer, and then we start, playing some music and stuff like that. It doesn't exist anymore. I meet my band out there, in the airport, and then we go on and we know the songs, and we go playing, and then we go home, and some mow the lawn, and somebody fixes a pipe, and somebody don't know how to wrench. But all that great stuff that I call the chase was better than the catch is GONE. It's way gone.
Wow.
And that is the part I miss more. I don't miss not getting the platinum records. Of course, it doesn't mean that, a little bit of more cash in the bank wouldn't hurt.
Right.
But the chase was what it was all about for us. And I'm positive that I would be able to get most of my comrades in rock and roll to say the same thing, because what we got now is not very special. We're just clinging on to something. I hit the stage, and I want to give the audience that came that night the best I can give, of course.
Yeah, that's yeah. You're right. I don't hear a lot of people saying that the chase was the fun part. And you talk about you're there, you have a home studio, and you're not really with the boys anymore, and that was kind of like that was the soul part. That was like the struggle part of it. Now, I mean, you think it's easier now with home studios, with software you can record with social media and things, you can upload it online easily and get your music out there. I mean, that's got to be better for struggling artists.
When you look at that. But the thing about struggling artists, that kind of, now it's just made, and I'm not dissing anyone, okay? Anybody can go down to the paint store and buy some paint and a brush and call themselves an artist and start painting. The thing was that there is no albums being released out there that has the essence of our classic favorite rock albums, where you knew the band had worked a long time on the songs. Most of first albums with the classic, it was your live set you had played in the clubs for many years, and you walked into the studio and the engineer turned on the red light and you just thought you were in front of the audience, and you recorded the songs, and that was your first album. It's Van Halen, it's AC/DC, it was White Line, et cetera, et cetera. That's what that was. And then when we got to the next album, we would be writing the songs on the road. We would be in the rehearsal room. We would get into the studio. We would hang out. We would experiment. We would listen to our competition's albums and say, oh, look at what they've done and stuff like that. It doesn't happen anymore. Now we're doing it, and the soul has been taken away. I'm sitting working on a new solo album. I don't even know when it was going to go out, but you just call it a solo album because, I've written the songs. I'm working on that, stuff like that. But it's not what I used to do. It's just because I do it and I can, but it's not what I want. But when you then start talking about, I really want these guys to play on the album, stuff like that, and I wouldn't mind recording it in Nashville and stuff like that. And you go, well, I have to put up, my house for sale so I can go back into studio and things like that. So because there's no record company, I'm going to release the album myself, dedicated to the diehard fans that have followed me and like to follow the, Mike Tramp's progression, et cetera, et cetera. So, you have to, think about all those things while you're writing the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we were just writing the song because it felt good and the amps were loud and you just gotten off the road and you were psyched and
yeah.
I don't know. It's all gone. But of course, if you are, like I said, for 50 years, it's the only thing that I have made money from and survived of is rock and roll for 50 years. I'm quite capable. I mean, when I say that, I always say, don't think that I'm sitting in my chair watching, reruns of silly TV shows. I'm quite handy with my hands. I built my, my own house many times, and I love being creative in that way. But I never gotten paid for that. So for 50 years, I have lived off rock and roll and my own music. I've only sang and played my own songs, never anyone else's songs except for one, Radar Love. That's
right.
The only song of somebody else, but I've never been an artist singing other people's songs. I'm not going to end up in a hotel playing cover songs, et cetera, et cetera. I will go down with my own Titanic.
That's amazing. That is, and that's truly what an artist is, right? I mean, you got to just stay dedicated.
Now all the original artists are fighting cover bands. I mean, there's 5 million Kiss tribute bands. There's 5 million Van Halen tribute bands and things like that. And I'm just going to myself, listen, I saw the real ones. I toured with the real ones.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that way sometimes too, but sometimes, I don't know, I miss the music. And if there's like, a Van Halen tribute band, I'll go out because I kind of miss seeing it live. I know it's not the same thing, but I somehow get some of those feelings. Maybe it's purely nostalgia on my part,
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that, and I know there's a lot of people are like, and they get something before you've forgotten that it's a tribute band up there standing and playing and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm only trying to defend the original artists. And
absolutely.
Stuff like that. It's sort of, when something ends and things like that, and it's like. With my 16 solo albums, of course, I proved that, I wasn't just leaning on the songs and the 4 albums that I'd written that was part of in White Lion. Now that I'm out doing White Lion, it's just, that's just what the fruit stand has on sale at the moment. So I'm out doing that. But I'm also, next week, I'm on a 10 show tour in the south of Florida, Mississippi, and Texas, doing my solo shows, acoustic stuff like that. So I got a few more years in me. So don't put me in that home yet.
Well, you're on fire, Mike. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're ready to quit anytime soon. You are a house of fire, and I really admire that. And your dedication to your music. And you can see Mike Saturday night here in Worcester, Rascals in Worcester, Mike Tramp, and you will be doing White Lion, as you said, and because I love that. That's what's available on the fruit stand. I love that.
Yeah, I'm looking real forward to it. The band is on fire, like you said yourself right now, so I'm really looking forward to. We got some loyal fans, and especially very nice to know that you affected somebody while they went through high school and they're still with you one way or another. And that's the true reward in reality, that you affected someone that they still want to come back and see you 40 years later.
Yeah.
God bless them.
Yeah. When making that connection is a kind of a success in itself, not just the money and the big deals, but when you make that connection and it's a lasting one. That's
exactly.
That's proof right there, Mike.
I'm truly grateful every day for that, and including the radio stations like your own that that support our rock and roll.
Oh yeah, we still play your music here at the Pike for sure, and looking forward to seeing you at Rascals. That's this Saturday night, Rascals in Worcester. We'll obviously all the information will be put up all on our website as well as this interview and all of our social media. Mike Tramp, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're very welcome.